Yeah, so web services? Does Guidewire support both SOAP and REST service? Yes, Guidewire support both. I mean consuming and at the same time, providing the APIs. Can we create a SOAP API from Guidewire? Yes, we can create. Okay, we can create a SOAP API and we can create a REST API also, both the APIs we can create in the same time. We can consume SOAP or REST, okay. So these are the integration mechanism which we are going to use. There is a method name plugin. Okay, so these we have talked about different mechanism like web services. You can see here. Right here you can see an example of the web services here. External system is calling the API which is published in Guidewire, and then it is consuming, okay, and then we are sending the response. Event messaging is an asynchronous integration, right? So we have to do it using event-fired rules, but event messaging is asynchronous. Startable plugins. Startable plugins are the listeners. Okay, so it will always listen to the incoming messages. Okay. So generally in Guidewire startable plugins are not used so extensively because it will result in the increased bandwidth and the increased memory size. So generally the preferable is we have to utilize all these other techniques, not the startable plugins. Okay, because it's always in the listening mode 24/7 for the incoming messages, right? So it will consume more bandwidth, right? So that's why Guidewire doesn't recommend much of startable plugins to be written. Okay. Now we have a batch process. Batch process is nothing, but suppose we want to connect to an external system. Let's say there is a reporting system. Okay is from the Claimcenter. Also, there is a claim reporting system wherein we need to just send the data. Whatever data we have got from in the entire day, right? Whatever claims we have got in the entire day, if we have a requirement that we are at the end of the day, there should be some functionality that on our trigger of a button or automatically, that data will be transferred to a third-party system, right? So if we have some periodic type of requirement, right, that this particular logic has to be done periodically, on daily basis or weekly basis or so, then we'll create web services. Oh sorry. Batch processes. Okay. And we have a concept of predefined plugin as well. What are predefined plugins? Predef, suppose there is an integration, right, there is a document integration. We have talked about document storage, right, so if there is a requirement, suppose there are multiple environments, okay, and in those multiple environments we have to trigger that in document integration, like document management integration, which is pointing to different URLs for those environments. Okay, so we don't have to explicitly mention different place, different code for different places. We can write a single plugin for that particular integration and we can specify the environment name and the URL which need to be triggered for that integration. So, for each environment, we can mention the different URL and we can mention the username and password also. Okay, so the code is one, but it is applicable to multiple environments and places. Okay, so it is used in those kind of functionality, alright. And we'll be talking about these things in detail later on. So there are multiple predefined plugins, which are already defined in the Guidewire. Okay, and we'll be seeing its utilization as well, because predefined plugin will be used in event messaging as well, so we will be talking about it. Furthermore, this is a table. Okay. It has summarized whatever we have discussed in here, right? So it has pretty much summarized everything. Okay, so web service are used for inbound. Outbound messaging can be outbound and it is asynchronous. Startable plugins are also asynchronous, because these are just the listeners, so these are inbound. Okay. Bash processes are scheduled okay because if we have a requirement to trigger something on a periodic basis and integrate to third party on periodic basis, then synchronous. Synchronous. What I see is we are not providing outbound, so does that mean we are not providing any API for synchronous? No, this is right now. This needs to be updated and updated. Okay, even for outbound. Yes, we have it. We have it now. I'll update. It's not there, but the slide is a little bit wrong. It's present for outbound, also okay. Okay, but Guidewire will not. But the Guidewire has to create the client class for that. It doesn't have to create any API in case of outbound, right? So yeah, generally what happens, right? Outbound integrations, right, they will be happening. Mostly, 90% of the integrations would be happening with event messaging, most of the outbound integrations. And I'll tell you the reason also when we'll discussing the event messaging, right, why there is it's a best practice to do that, okay? Yeah, you are not feeling well, I guess, right? Yeah, I think, allergies, I get that. Okay. Give me a second. Okay, that's pretty much about the high level on the. What are the integration techniques we have in Guidewire, and we'll be talking about each and every technique in detail. So here in the syntax is right, they're talking about all the syntaxes like Gosu classes, blocks. So let me jump onto the blocks, because this is a new concept and we have I've already shown you from the code how the blocks look like. Sign how to create a block, right? So this is also one example of a block. So you can see here blocks. Blocks are initiated in a parenthesis. Okay, so you can see here, contact node is an array key to the contact entity. Okay, and we have multiple methods on this, which will be using blocks here. So what the block is doing here is we have a where method which is using a block and our block will check for the where. The contact node type is general. It will return those values of the array. Basically it will iterate and then see we don't need to write a for loop and then condition it's everything is done from the where. So similarly, we can have multi. I can show you from here as well, in the Gosu Scratchpad, what are the methods available on the array. So let's suppose, okay, I have this array right, I have created this. A person, inside every person. I have this history entry array right, so I'll print a person dot. History entry. Way, so you can see this is also block all match, or what? So how do you, okay, it's already written block. Yeah, count where. Okay, count where means it will count only those objects. Where it will. We have to give some condition here, so count where. I have you point where right. So, elt, it is a variable name of each object of history. Entry dot. Public ID equal to 22. Okay, so it will count only those public ID, those history entries, object which is having public ID as 22. It will count only those results. So this is just an example how we utilize this gosu block. Okay, and if you want to use which, would you want to iterate between multiple results? Right. So it doesn't require that you do it using for loop, you can do it using for each as well. So suppose you want to iterate between all the history entries, right? So what you can do is, instead of creating a for loop, right? You can just add .each and it will also take a block. Inside the block you have to mention whatever you will mention in the for loop, right? Whatever code you will mention in the for loop, similar thing, you can mention it here. And this is the variable name of each object. Okay, so this is a shorthand thing. This you can utilize in that go soon and it will be useful a lot.